Groom Lake, 6 miles beneath the Nevada desert, buried inside the part of Area 51 that officially doesn't exist. That's where I was 2 weeks ago when everything snapped loose and the world I thought I understood got ripped apart. I'm back in my apartment in North Las Vegas now, writing this at 3 in the morning because sleep isn't an option, and because I'm almost certain someone in a black suit is going to knock on my door within the next 48 hours. And when they do, I won't die. I'll vanish. There's a difference. Death leaves fingerprints. Disappearance leaves questions that never get answered. My name is Jake Morrison, Senior Airman, United States Air Force, 7 years in uniform, 2 deployments, clean service record, and now I'm the biggest national security threat walking around in civilian clothes. 26 years old, Spokane native, average guy who thought he had his life together until he learned the universe is built on lies we were never meant to uncover. I've dealt with pressure before, Qatar rotation, Kabul gate duty, but nothing prepares you for watching everything you believe collapse in a single week. Nothing prepares you to see men die in ways that shouldn't be possible. Nothing prepares you to realize humanity is a child holding a stick while giants stare down from the dark. The nerve started the moment I got my orders. I was sitting in the personnel office at Nellis, looking at a sheet of paper that said temporary duty assignment, undisclosed location, specialized security operations, and the captain who handed it to me had this haunted pity in his face. Officers don't pity enlisted guys. That should have been my cue to fake an injury or claim food poisoning. That night at dinner, Sarah knew something was wrong. We were at a little Italian place off base, and I couldn't stop spinning my glass like it was a worry stone. "You're doing the thing," she said. "What thing?" "Your anxiety twitch. What's going on?" Our dad did 23 years in the Navy. She knows the difference between deployment nerves and real dread. I told her it was a new assignment, tried to shrug it off. She didn't buy it. I leaned in and whispered, "Area 51. Her eyes went wide. "The actual, yeah." She stared at me like I just told her I'd seen Bigfoot. "Do you think you'll see anything?" I forced a casual shrug even though my stomach was folding in on itself. "Probably just weird aircraft, classified projects, government money pits. Alien stuff is Reddit nonsense." That's what I said. That's what I believed. 7 years in the Air Force taught me classified usually meant boring tech that didn't work right. The government doesn't hide aliens. They hide busted prototypes and contractors who overbill. I wish that had been true. The night before I left, I lay awake beside Sarah, staring at the ceiling, feeling like something invisible was tightening around my ribs. I'm not superstitious. I don't get gut feelings. But something in me was screaming not to go. Why isn't, mother is bad to say that? I almost called in sick. Almost. Instead, I kissed her goodbye, promised I'd call, which was a lie because I already knew I wouldn't, and drove to Nellis before sunrise. The Janet flight lifted at 0700. White 737. Red stripe, no windows in the passenger cabin. 40+ people on board. Contractors, engineers, old guys with thermoses doing their daily commute to the strangest office on earth. A few young military like me, trying to look like this was normal. The man next to me was Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, late 30s, weathered face, wing on his finger, tattoo on his arm that looked older than half the plane. "First time?" he asked. "Yeah. You?" "Third rotation. Relax, guard duty's guard duty no matter what hole they stick you in." I wanted that to be true. Rodriguez started reading a paperback. I spent the flight staring at the blank wall where a window should be, fighting a rising sense of dread. When we landed, the heat hit like a blast furnace. June in Nevada, already pushing triple digits. Groom Lake looked exactly like government secrecy tends to look. Bland buildings, test hangars, dusty vehicles, the least mysterious-looking place imaginable. I checked in, got my badge and briefing packet. The major processing me barely looked up until he finished the paperwork. "You'll be assigned to Airman First Class Mills," he said. 7 years down there, knows the drill. Listen to him. Follow protocol to the letter. Then he finally looked at me, and his eyes were empty, like someone had scooped the humanity out and left the shell. "Nothing you see here is ever discussed," he said. "Not with family, not with clergy, not with Congress. You violate your NDA, you go to Leavenworth, if you're lucky. Understood?" "Yes, sir." Mills is outside. Dismissed. Mills was leaning against an old pickup, aviators on, desert tan skin, lean build, drinking from a dented metal bottle, maybe 30. He shook my hand, told me to toss my gear in the back. His knuckles were scarred, fresh wounds, barely healed, like you punched a wall or something worse. As we drove away from the main campus toward the restricted zone, I tried to break the silence. So, what am I actually guarding down there? Mills didn't answer, just drove. Then finally, you believe in God, Morrison? Raised Catholic, I said. Don't practice. Might want to start again. He adjusted his sunglasses. Because after tonight, you're gonna have questions about the universe, and I don't have answers. He wasn't joking. We drove 20 quiet minutes through dead desert until we reached what looked like a maintenance shed with razor wire and 2 guards carrying M4s. Mills flashed his badge. One of the guards gave me a look I'll never forget, sympathy mixed with regret. Inside the shed was a huge elevator. Mills keyed in a code, scanned his thumb, spoke into a camera. Mills Daniel, authorization Whiskey 79er Echo Tango. The system confirmed. The elevator door opened. Get in, he said. I stepped inside. He hit the only button, LE level 6. We started descending and kept descending. How far down? I finally asked. 6 miles, he said, give or take. My stomach tightened. Then he said the words that cracked my world open. You know the alien jokes about this place? They're not jokes. The elevator kept sinking into the earth, humming like some giant machine chewing through the planet. And the deeper we went, the more my ears throbbed from the pressure. Though Mills stood perfectly still, hands in his pockets, like this was just another shift. At around the 4-minute mark, he finally spoke without looking at me, as if the ground itself might eavesdrop. Listen, he said, there are things down here you're not ready to see, but you're going to see them anyway. So do yourself a favor, don't try to make sense of any of it too fast. I didn't know how to respond, so I just swallowed and nodded as if my brain wasn't already clawing at the inside of my skull. When the elevator stopped, it didn't ding, didn't open automatically. Mills had to key in another code, place his palm on a scanner, and wait for a heavy mechanical lock to disengage before the doors finally slid open to reveal a steel corridor stretching farther than the lights could illuminate. If hell had a lobby, I imagined it would look exactly like that. Clean, humming, sterile, and somehow wrong, in ways you only understand once you've stepped inside. The air was cold enough to make goosebumps rise on my arms, and the fluorescent lights had this faint flickering pulse, like they were being powered by something alive. Mills handed me a badge with a red stripe across it. Don't lose that. If you do, you'll never see daylight again for reasons you don't want explained. He led me down the corridor, the metallic clang of our boots echoing off the walls, until we turned into Security Station Alpha, a room full of monitors, coffee mugs, half-finished paperwork, and that stale, recycled air smell every bunker seems to have. You'll spend most of your first week here, Mills said, watching screens, learning protocols, getting used to the fact that nothing on level 6 is normal. He motioned to the wall of surveillance feeds, hallways, containment doors, pressure readouts, thermal signatures, environmental status reports. Everything down here is dangerous, he said quietly. Some things more than others. He sat, logged into the system, then pointed at a monitor labeled Containment A. That's blue, he said. Your first introduction. I leaned in, expecting some ugly animal or bioweapon, but instead saw a pale humanoid figure strapped into a metal chair in a room full of sensors, cables and machinery humming around him. Its skin was smooth and gray like polished stone, its limbs thin, and its head too large for its body. It wasn't moving. It wasn't even breathing in a way I could detect. Is he alive? I asked. Mills nodded. Hasn't aged a day in 90 years. Crash landed in the 30s. He can't walk. Spine shattered in the crash. But his mind? Mills tapped his temple. More active than any human alive. I stared at the monitor, unable to look away. Has he ever talked? Mills exhaled slowly, like the memory carried weight. Not with his mouth. If he wants to speak, you'll know. It's like someone else's thoughts get dropped into your skull. He doesn't read minds, doesn't dig around in there, just communicates. One way. The idea made something curl cold in my chest. What does he say? Usually nothing. Sometimes he'll ask for small adjustments, light levels, temperature. Sometimes he'll say things that keep you awake for days. Mills stood. Come on, time to see him in person. I hesitated. Right now? Better now than when things start happening. The way he said things made my skin tighten. We walked down another corridor, this one lined with reinforced doors thicker than anything I'd seen outside blast bunkers. Mills stopped at one, keyed in a sequence, and a heavy window shutter lifted. Look. Blue sat exactly as he appeared on the monitor, head tilted slightly upward, unmoving, eyes open but unfocused, restrained by devices I didn't understand. And yet, staring at him, I felt something ripple through the room, through me. like a quiet question pressed against my mind, faint but present. Mills put a hand on my arm. Don't answer. He's curious. That's all. I took a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and stepped back. Okay, I whispered. Okay, good, Mills said, his voice returning to its usual dry tone. That's the easiest one. Next is Hangar 3. If blue had unsettled me, Hangar 3 downright crushed me. The chamber was massive, bigger than a football field, its ceiling lost in shadows, and in the center sat the disc. Not a flying saucer from TV, not a cartoon UFO. A perfectly smooth metallic craft hovering about 3 feet above its platform. Silent, seamless, its surface reflecting light in a way I couldn't comprehend. It still floats, Mills said. Doesn't matter what you shut off. Turn the power grid down, kill the field generators, doesn't touch the thing. Scientists spent decades trying to open it. Nothing works. Tools break, lasers burn out, metal won't scratch. It's like trying to cut through a star. I walked closer, feeling the air around it vibrate with a low hum. Can we fly it? The laugh Mills gave wasn't amused. We can't even turn on a dashboard light. Everything we know about modern science, it's preschool work compared to this. I circled the disc slowly, my reflection warping across its curved surface like liquid metal. So what does Blue say about it? That we're not ready, he muttered. That we're the wrong species, the wrong era, the wrong everything. His expression hardened, haunted. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. He led me away with quick steps, like lingering too long near the craft was dangerous in ways he didn't want to explain. Last part of today's tour, Mills said as we approached the different corridor. This one feeling colder, darker, lined with warning signs every few feet. This is the part nobody likes. I swallowed. What's down here? Mills paused, met my eyes, and his voice dropped to a low gravel. Containment C and D. The things we barely keep contained, and the things that learn every time we fail. The corridor leading to containment C and D felt different the moment we stepped into it. Sterile in the same way a hospital morgue is sterile. Cold not from temperature, but from the sense that the walls remembered screams. Mills walked slower here, as if even his boots didn't want to make noise that might draw attention. You don't approach these cells without protocol, he murmured. You don't speak to anything inside. You don't answer if it speaks to you. You stay behind the lines, behind the glass, and keep moving. He stopped at a junction and tapped a panel, bringing up a warning display drenched in red symbols. C is the dark, he said. D is the doppelganger. You'll learn quickly why those names are the least terrifying thing about them. We moved to the long viewing window for containment C, and when the shutter rose, the lights inside flickered like dying candles. The room beyond was reinforced from ceiling to floor with UV bulbs, all humming at full strength, bathing everything in a harsh bluish glow. In the center was a massive shadow, an absence so total, it looked like the room had a hole carved into it. It eats light, Knowles said quietly. Literally. If those UV arrays go down for more than a few seconds, the dark spreads. It wants out. Always wants out. I watched the black mass pulse, expanding a few inches every time the bulbs dimmed, retreating when they flared. Has it ever escaped? I asked, my throat tight. Mills gave a humorless smile. Once, 1972. They still don't know how many people died that night because most of the bodies were never found. Just cold pockets on the floor, and security footage that shows shadows dragging men into corners that shouldn't exist. He pointed to a gauge on the wall. We run triple redundancy, 3 power grids, 2 generators, solar backup topside. If all that fails, nothing survives long enough to report it. My skin crawled as we stepped back and approached containment D. This one had even heavier shielding, more cameras, and warning placards plastered every 3 feet. Verify identity before entry. Maintain visual contact. Do not respond to unauthorized voices. Mills keyed the shutter. Inside, sitting cross-legged on the floor like a parent waiting for a child, was a woman. Middle-aged, blonde hair in a loose braid, blue jumpsuit. But the moment she lifted her head toward the glass, something in my spine went rigid. Her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too flat, too aware. It can't see through the window, Mills said, adjusting his stance as if preparing for it to sprint at the glass. One-way surface, but it always knows when someone new is on the other side. The woman's lips twitched upward into a faint smile that wasn't a smile at all. How often does it change shape? I asked. Whenever it wants, Mills replied. But it prefers faces it's copied before, familiar ones it's used. His jaw tightened. In 2003, the door glitched during a power fluctuation. 45 seconds. That's all. It got out, killed the 2 guards posted here, then started hunting. It copied people, walked up to their friends, and struck before anyone realized they were dead. My stomach churned. How did you stop it? Thermal, he said. It can mimic skin, hair, voice, everything, but its body temperature stays 15 degrees lower than ours. We flooded the corridors with heat-aligned drones and boxed it in. The thing spends all day watching old security footage, listening to guards talk, learning us. That's what it does, learns. The copy's head tilted, eyes still locked where it somehow sensed I was standing. Don't talk to it, Mills whispered. Ever. I nodded, backing away before he lowered the shutter. When do I meet the rest? I asked. Meet? He huffed out of breath. You don't meet anything else. Those are the four. Blue, the ship, the dark, the doppelganger. You'll spend the next few days learning patrol routes, emergency codes, containment checks, and the difference between alarm tones. The next morning started at 0600, with Mills banging on my door like the building was on fire. Patrol in 20. Move! I dragged myself out of the cot, still rattled from what I'd seen the day before. Level 6's dorms were small concrete boxes. Bed, walker, sink, nothing else. I splashed cold water on my face, pulled on my uniform, and met Mills in the hallway. He shoved the coffee into my hand without asking. You look like hell, he said. Nobody slips the first week. You'll get used to it. But the dark circles under his own eyes told me he'd never gotten used to anything. Our patrol took us the full circuit. Containment A, Hangar 3, the Dark's room, the Doppelganger's corridor. Mills showed me how to check atmospheric readouts, thermal signatures, UV output, and the cell locks that were designed to fail in the locked position should power die. If you ever see a red fault light on a containment door, he said, you hit the alarm and you run. You don't investigate, you don't look, you don't play hero, you run. We walked past Blue's cell. The alien was motionless as ever, eyes open but fixed on nothing. Yet the moment I passed, a pressure brushed the back of my skull. Light, questioning, almost gentle. It felt like a thought that wasn't mine nudging the edge of my awareness. I froze. Mills turned. He's saying hello, he muttered. Don't panic. It feels weird the first time. What does he want? To understand us, Mills said. To warn us, sometimes. Or to say things that ruin your appetite for a week. The next 3 days settled into a pattern. Coffee, patrols, training, questions I wasn't ready to ask, and answers Mills didn't want to give. Every hour on level 6 tightened something inside me. The air felt heavier, the shadows too thick, the hum of machinery too alive. On the 5th day, Mills seemed quieter than usual, glancing at the ceiling as if listening for something only he recognized. Tomorrow, he said near the end of shift, you're on your own. Make sure you're ready. He looked at me, tired, resigned, maybe even afraid, because this place doesn't forgive mistakes, Morrison. It waits for them. My first day working alone on level 6 started with a sense of dread that clung to me from the moment I woke up, as if the air itself knew what was coming and tried to warn me. I showered in water so cold it felt like needles, dressed, and walked the corridor to Security Station Alpha with that sick tension coiling in my gut like a tightening wire. The station was too quiet, no hum of conversation, no clatter of keyboards, just a constant drone of ventilation and the faint buzz from the monitors lining the wall. I logged in the way Mills had drilled into me. Edge code, biometric scan, voice verification. Everything came online except 2 feeds, camera 53 surface and camera 12 containment A, blue cell, both black. That never happened. I tried the radio. Mills, this is Morrison at Alpha. I've got 2 dead feeds. Confirm maintenance, static. I adjusted frequencies, tapped the side of the radio. Station Alpha to top side. Come in, more static. Except, not just static. Underneath it was a faint trembling sound I couldn't place at first. A kind of distant metallic rhythm. Then it hit me. The sub-level alarm system. But not the perimeter alarm. Not the fire alert. The one Mills told me I never wanted to hear. The containment breach alarm. It was muffled by distance and thick concrete, but unmistakable. Long, low, almost mournful, echoing up from deeper within level 6. My pulse spiked. I stood so fast my chair rolled into the wall. No, I whispered. Not today. Not on my first shift. I checked the hall. The lights were flickering in long, uneven pulses, like a dying heartbeat. Smoke drifted faintly through the far end, thin and ghost-like. I grabbed my rifle, moved back to the monitors, praying they'd reboot. One by one, a few screens flickered back on, running off backup power I didn't even know existed. The first image to stabilize was camera 53, the surface feed. What appeared made my knees go weak. The sky above Groom Lake was filled with disc-shaped craft, dozens of them, floating in perfect silence above the facility. The same design as the craft in Hangar 3, but intact, glowing, alive. Blues people. They were here. They were actually here. Streams of brilliant blue-white energy lanced downward from the ships, slicing through buildings like they were made of paper. I watched the north hangar disintegrate in a flash. A guard tower vanished in a shimmer of violet light. They came for him, I muttered. They finally came for Blue. Another monitor steadied, an internal hallway feed. Chaos. Personnel running, tripping, panicking, some firing weapons, others abandoning gear. Then a young man froze mid-step, lifted straight off the ground as if invisible hands had grabbed his limbs. He screamed, then he folded, his entire body compressing inward with a sickening crunch, collapsing into a ball of bone and flesh the size of a basketball. He dropped to the floor like discarded trash. An alien stepped into the frame. Same gray skin, same large black eyes as Blue, but moving with a fluidity that made my skin crawl. It bent over the remains, studying its work like a scientist examining an experiment. Then its head snapped upward and stared directly into the camera, into me. I felt something shove into my mind, cold and probing, like fingers pressing into lead clay. Not painful, worse, violating, wrong. I ripped myself back from the monitor, gasping. More feeds emerged, soldiers firing down Corridor D. Their bullets froze midair, suspended like metal raindrops. The alien flicked its hand and the rounds spun back, shredding the men who'd fired them. Another feed, Hangar 3, 4 aliens surrounding the crashed disc. The air around them rippled like heat haze. The disc began to glow, the scorch marks from decades of failed cutting attempts, fading as if time itself was reversing. The ship was repairing itself. They were taking it home. A violent tremor shook the facility, dust raining from the ceiling. I switched to camera 12, containment A, and wished I hadn't. The door to Blue's cell wasn't broken. It was simply gone, as if it had never existed. 3 aliens floated inside, surrounding Blue's chair. They touched his forehead, and his body arched in silence, as a flood of blinding light poured from his eyes. When the glow dimmed, Blue hovered above the chair, limp but alive, carried telepathically by his people. They were extracting him, and they were burying the evidence. A new alarm blared on the main console. SDR structural failure. Level 6 compromised. Evacuate immediately. 10 minutes, I breathed. Maybe less. I slung my rifle and bolted into the corridor. The flickering lights cast violent shadows across the walls. Smoke thickened with every step. I sprinted toward the emergency elevator when footsteps pounded behind me. Fast. Desperate. Morrison, wait! I skidded and spun. Flashlight raised like a weapon. It wasn't an alien. It wasn't the dark. It was a young airman covered in blood, name tag reading Chen, eyes wide with raw relief. Thank God, he gasped. I thought everyone was. His head exploded, not figuratively, literally. His skull burst in a spray of blood that painted the corridor in red shards. I froze, not from fear, shock, complete paralyzing shock. Something moved at the far end of the hall, something shape-shifting. Something that had gotten loose long before the aliens came. The doppelganger, and it was hunting. For a second, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. Chen's body collapsing without a head, blood still pattering onto the floor in thick drops. Because the alternative was admitting the doppelganger was somewhere close, watching, choosing its next face. I stumbled backward as something moved to my left, but instead of another alien or that shifting creature, a hand clamped around my wrist with startling strength. I almost swung my rifle before I registered the face. Sergeant Rodriguez, pale, bleeding heavily from a wound in his abdomen, uniform torn open like he'd crawled through hell. Stop, he choked, pulling himself up the wall. Listen, you can't trust anyone. Do you hear me? Anyone. His voice vibrated with urgency and terror, the kind that comes from seeing things that break a man's ability to speak. What happened? I demanded. Roger, how long was the player? Rodriguez coughed and blood spilled down his chin. The doppelganger. It got loose before any of this started, hours before the attack. It's already on the surface levels. It can look like anybody. Your best friend, your CO, your reflection if it wants. You won't know until you're dead. My pulse hammered so hard I could hear it echoing in my skull. How do I tell who's real? You don't, he rasped. You run, you get out. And once you're out, you stay out. The minute you try to report this, they'll bury you. They'll erase you. They can't let this story see daylight. His breath rattled as he struggled to stay upright. Morrison, they'll make you disappear. I know. I said, because I did. Even before the words left him, I knew. Rodriguez gave one last weak nod. Then go. Go now. Before, he stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening in horror as he stared over my shoulder. I turned. The corridor behind us, the one connecting the deeper labs, was no longer dim or flickering. It was pitch black, perfect, hostile darkness, swallowing every trace of light like an ocean absorbing a flare. And it was moving, not creeping, flowing, like some living liquid night pushing down the hallway toward us. The UV systems must have failed in the lower sector. The dark was free. Rodriguez's voice shrank to a whisper. Run, Morrison. Wrong now. I hesitated for only a fraction of a second, fighting the instinct to drag him along, but the look in his eyes told me the truth. He was already dying. The dark wanted movement, heat, life. If I stayed, we'd both be consumed. So I ran. I sprinted past Chen's remains, past the smoke-filled junction, past the shattered lights that buzzed like dying insects. Behind me came one sharp scream from Rodriguez, cut off abruptly, like his throat had been sealed shut. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I'd freeze, and whatever was inside that darkness would take me in a heartbeat. I hit the main corridor at full speed, boots hammering against metal flooring, lungs burning. The emergency lights were still strobing, turning my shadow into a flickering shape, barely keeping pace with me. But another shadow, longer, colder, slid along the walls behind me, stretching from places no light touched, reaching like spidery fingers. The dark was rising to the surface. No, 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 I whispered as I vaulted over fallen debris, nearly twisting my ankle. The temperature dropped sharply. In June, in Nevada, my breath fogged the air in front of me. Something glided across the ceiling, my own silhouette contorting unnaturally as the dark crawled through the infrastructure, devouring patches of light wherever it reached. I burst through the final security door and stumbled into the surface lot. Vehicles were scattered everywhere, some abandoned mid-escape attempt, others crushed by falling debris from above. Above me, the alien ships still hung in the sky, slicing through the base with surgical beams. I didn't have time to marvel or panic. My bike, my old Honda someone sold me for cheap, was parked somewhere in row 7. I sprinted toward it, 150 meters. My legs pumped harder. Something cold brushed the back of my neck, and I almost screamed. The shadows were chasing me. Normal shadows corrupted, stretched by the dark, into tendrils reaching with malicious intent. One grabbed my ankle. I hit the ground so hard my teeth clicked. Gravel tore into my palms. I twisted, expecting a wall of black to engulf me, but it was only the shadow of a half-collapsed generator unit, except the dark had poured into it, using it like a sleeve. The shadow wrapped around my boot, tightening, cold enough to burn. I kicked wildly, heel smashing against the asphalt. The shadow tore, splitting like fabric. I ripped free, stumbling to my feet, but a piece of it clung to my boot, frigid, writhing, alive. I didn't stop to remove it. 75 meters now. The dark wasn't rushing. It didn't have to. It wanted me to feel it closing in, to understand that it could take me anytime it pleased. 50 meters. I could see my bike clearly. Blue paint, scratched tank, helmet still strapped to the back. The shadows between cars pulsed with unnatural cold, each one reaching as I passed. 25 meters. Every vehicle in the lot had frost forming on the windows where the dark had passed. My fingers trembled as I grabbed my keys, dropping them twice before jamming them into the ignition. A wave of freezing air swept across the parking lot as the dark poured out between vehicles, sliding toward me like a tide of living night. I twisted the key. The engine coughed, once, twice, then roared alive with a violent growl that echoed across the ruined base. The engine's roar hit my ears like a defibrillator jolt, snapping me back into my body just as the temperature around me plunged again, the air crystallizing with frost that shouldn't exist in Nevada desert. Albert Mead. I kicked the bike into gear, twisted the throttle, and shot forward so hard the handlebars nearly ripped out of my hands. Behind me, the shadows convulsed like a single living creature, realizing its prey was trying to flee. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The bike fishtailed on loose gravel, tires skidding over patches of ice forming where the dark had reached. And for a moment I thought I'd wipe out right there, eaten in the middle of a parking lot by something that wasn't even solid. But the wheels caught, and I tore between rows of burning vehicles, engines screaming, smoke rising in oily plumes from wreckage carved open by alien beams. Overhead, one of the ships drifted low, humming with a frequency I felt in my teeth, blue light spilling down like a pillar, It sliced an entire warehouse in half, the building collapsing inward with the sound of a dying world. My path to the perimeter fence was a war zone. Torn asphalt, smashed security booths, shards of metal glowing red from heat. I leaned hard left, narrowly avoiding a crater that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. The dark followed me across the open lot. Not fast, not slow, steady, inevitable. A tide of living black spilling across the ground, eating every shadow it touched, and growing larger with each breath of light it stole. My bike surged forward, but even at full throttle, the sensation of being hunted never left my spine. I hit the chain-link fence at nearly 50 miles per hour, braced for impact. But the alien beams had already torn a section clean open, leaving melted steel glowing orange. I raced through the gap, the heat so intense it burned the exposed skin on my arm. Once outside the immediate perimeter, the desert stretched ahead, wide, open, empty, the only path between me and survival. I didn't slow down. I pushed the throttle until the engine screamed like it was begging for mercy. The floodlights behind me began to fail one by one, each blink a death sentence, as the dark devoured their glow, the facility sinking into a churning pool of living night. The aliens didn't care about me. I was a bug sprinting from a burning anthill. Their ships hovered above the base, performing their operation with cold precision, rescuing their own, and erasing every human trace with beams that folded metal, vaporized concrete, and carved through earth like sand. A tremor rolled under the desert floor, and I realized the deeper levels were collapsing. Level 6 imploding on itself, miles of reinforced structure collapsing like tinfoil. The shockwave threw my bike sideways. I corrected hard, boots skidding in the sand, heart hammering. "Come on," I muttered to the engine. "Just a few more miles." The headlights cut a thin cone into the darkness as I sped across the desert, but something behind me moved faster than any shadow should be capable of. I risked one glance. Mistake. The dark was pouring across the sand like liquid ink fleeing a shattered bottle, rolling in unnatural waves, bending toward me as if the ground had tilted. My vision tunneled. I leaned forward, gripping the handlebars so hard my knuckles ached, praying the bike wouldn't stall. I passed the outermost sensor array, rows of steel poles that once fed data straight into the classified systems underground. The lights on them flickered, dimmed, then went black, consumed. I could feel the darkness gaining, a cold pressure against my back like a breath down my neck. My engine sputtered for half a second, and I nearly lost my mind, screaming at it, slamming the gas. The bike coughed, choked, then caught again. I tore across the dry lake bed, the tires kicking up a pale cloud of dust behind me. Far ahead, the faint glow of Highway 375 shimmered like salvation. I aimed for it. The ground bucked again as another explosion erupted behind me. Hangar 5 going up in a column of blue fire. The shock wave rolled across the desert, hitting my bike like a hammer. I gritted my teeth, forced the handlebars straight, fought the urge to slow. My legs felt numb from cold creeping through my boots. The dark was near, too near. A cold front racing on my heels. 50 yards from the highway, the ground sloped upward into a shallow bank. I hit it too fast. The bike launched off the rise, weightless for a breath. When it slammed back onto the asphalt, the back wheel fishtailed violently. I thought I was done, but momentum carried me through, the tires catching grip, the engine roaring as if it understood we weren't dead yet. I didn't stop, not for 5 miles, not for 10, not until the glow behind me, blue light, orange flames, and creeping black, shrank into the night. Only then did I finally let off the throttle, coasting down the lonely desert highway, lungs heaving, hands shaking so badly I could hardly keep the bike straight. I glanced back once, just once, and saw the unthinkable. The entire base swallowed in rolling shadow, the sky lit by alien craft drifting upward like silent ghosts, leaving Earth behind. Then the darkness spread one last time, and the facility that shouldn't exist disappeared from the world. I didn't stop riding until the bike's engine began to shudder beneath me, the hot metal rattling like it was seconds from tearing itself apart. And even then, I only slowed because headlights appeared behind me, military headlights. The harsh white beams cutting across the open desert like searchlights sweeping for a fugitive. For a split second, I thought the dark had somehow chased me onto the highway, warping itself into a new shape. But then the sirens came, short, clipped bursts, and 2 Humvees boxed me in from both sides. I had no choice but to brake. My tires skidded on the asphalt, and the moment I put my boots down, soldiers poured out, weapons up, flashlights blinding me. "Cans where we can see them!" someone barked. I raised my hands slowly, body trembling from adrenaline and cold that still clung to my bones. They pinned me against the side of a Humvee, ripped the keys from my hand, patted me down like I was carrying nuclear launch codes. "Name," the lead MP shouted. "Senior Airman Jake Morrison," I rasped. "Nellis." "TDY," he stared like he already knew. "Where's your team?" I almost laughed. Broken, exhausted sound escaped my throat. "Dead," I whispered. A brief silence followed, uneasy, charged. Then someone behind me said, "Bag him." A black hood dropped over my head before I could protest. The world swallowed in smothering darkness. Hands shoved me into the back of a vehicle, zip ties cinched around my wrists, and the engine roared to life. We drove for what felt like hours, every bump jarring through my spine, every breath filled with the suffocating smell of canvas and gasoline. Eventually, the Humvee stopped. They dragged me out, marched me down a concrete corridor that echoed like a tomb, and sat me in a metal chair. When the hood came off, I was in an interrogation room. White walls, single light, a camera blinking red in the corner. A colonel I'd never seen before sat across from me, flanked by two officers in suits who looked like they'd stepped out of a funeral procession. The colonel folded his hands on the table. "Airman Morrison," he said calmly, "you experienced a traumatic event this evening. We're here to help you make sense of it." His tone was warm. His eyes were dead. I said nothing. The man to his left slid a folder toward me. Inside were photos, satellite images of Groom Lake taken hours earlier, except the base was intact, whole. No craters, no collapsed structures, no evidence of alien craft or rising shadow. "This," the man said lightly, "is reality." He turned a page, a security record from Nellis showing my assignment listed as routine maintenance support, not Little 6. Another page, a psychological evaluation form dated 5 days ago, conveniently stating I was under stress and prone to hallucinations. They were rewriting my entire week. "You're lying," I said quietly. The facility collapsed. "The aliens? Airmen?" the colonel cut in firmly. "Area 51 has had no structural incidents, no breaches, no foreign presence. You fled your post during a minor electrical malfunction and suffered an acute stress response in the desert heat. That is what happened." "That's not that," he repeated, leaning forward. "Is what happened." One of the suit men tapped the table. "We're prepared to confirm this narrative to your superiors, to your family, and to anyone who might ask. In exchange, you will never speak of tonight again." My pulse thundered in my ears. "And if I do?" The suit man smiled politely, almost sympathetically. "You won't." The colonel slid a paper across the table. An NDA, thicker than any I'd ever seen, filled with clauses I didn't understand and consequences I did. I didn't sign it immediately. I stared at the pen, at the men who watched me like I was already a ghost. Finally, one officer leaned in. "Airman," he murmured, "we only have to make one phone call. You'll be reassigned, relocated, or removed permanently. Sign the document." So I signed, because survival is not bravery, it's strategy. They released me near sunrise, dropping me at the edge of Nellis, with a ride voucher and a warning to take time to rest. My motorcycle was gone. My badge, my gear, gone. My phone was wiped clean. When I finally got home, Sarah burst into tears and wrapped her arms around me, asking 1,000 questions I couldn't answer. I told her it was a long week. I told her I just needed sleep. I told her nothing else. But when I tried to sleep, all I saw was Blue being lifted from his chair, bones collapsing, shadows stretching, Rodriguez screaming, the disc repairing itself, the dark swallowing everything that light abandoned. For days, black SUVs lingered at the end of my street. One followed me to the grocery store. Another appeared outside my gym. Then, just as suddenly, they were gone, as if someone decided I wasn't a threat anymore, or that I was already broken enough to keep silent. But the nightmares didn't stop. Neither did the feeling that the dark hadn't stayed buried, that things released that night weren't all contained, that something was watching from corners where the light didn't reach. And so, 2 weeks later, I'm sitting here at 3:17 a.m., writing this because I need someone out there to know I'm not insane. Because the official story is a lie. Because what I saw inside Area 51 wasn't science fiction, it was a warning. And because someday soon, when the lights fail again, and something cold moves through the world like a living shadow, someone might remember these words and understand what's coming. If I vanish before morning, remember this: the government didn't bury the truth, it escaped. So if you heard all that and you're still here, good. Most people turn the lights on, pull the blanket up, and pretend the shadows don't look back. But you've walked with me through the deepest hole in the Nevada desert, and saw what the government tried to bury under 6 miles of steel and silence. If you want more stories they don't want told, more files they tried to burn, subscribe now, soldier. Stick with me, and I'll keep dragging the truth out of the dark, no matter who tries to shut us up.